coverage of your statement. Now, Reverend Amy Moore will come and offer a written statement by someone who wanted to share their voice but is unable to be present with us today.
Hello, my name is, well, that is not important. I wish I could stand in front of you all and tell you what I think. Some of you all might think that I am not here because of fear, but that is not the case. I am not here present with you all for my own protection. Because you all 15 years ago took my voice and stripped me of my youth and never gave it back. 15 years ago, I was here in this very same Henry Wade. I was 13 when I was brought to Henry Wade and put in the kids section. Did you hear that? Kids section. Who cares about that? Because you all didn't. We all know why someone is brought to Henry Wade. Because we broke the law and now we must be punished. That is what they told the 10-year-old standing next to me. We were stripped of our freedom like we were stripped from our clothes. Forced to stand naked in front of these adults. I don't know what feels worse, Henry Wade or being sex trafficked. Only thing that didn't change was the rule that adults know what's best, and you do what adults tell you to do. Now, some of you might be wondering, how was life at Henry Wade? I can tell you that. We had 3 meals a day, and you made sure not to complain about your waffle being cold, or else you will end up like John Doe in solitary confinement. We took showers once a day and had only 5 minutes to shower. And what I mean by only 5 minutes, I actually mean 3 minutes. The other 2 were for removing and putting your clothes back on. Also, you better not say a single word about a hole in your underwear or socks because they don't care. Don't get me started on the sleeping arrangements because we needed to be grateful for what we have. Thank you, Henry Wade, for my lumpy mat and holes in my blanket. I would like to say visitation was the only bright part in Henry Wade, but that did not last long because off to the underage strip club we went, where we were only paid with humiliation and embarrassment. We also went to school and made sure that we paid attention at all times and to not disagree with teachers, or else you'll end up on the floor for talking back. To be honest, I felt sorry for the teachers because they had no voice either and had to watch as my section buddy was put in a restraint. I do remember that I did have the opportunity once to leave Henry Wade to go to the doctor. I know I wasn't free, but knowing that I was at least going to be out of these 4 walls even for a second was enough. That wasn't the case here. I left these 4 walls locked up even more. This time these locks were on my wrist, my stomach, and my ankles. I never felt more locked up than when I was in Henry Wade. But the story doesn't end there. Next comes the walk of shame. The 200 feet from the van to the hospital doors felt like the longest walk I was ever in. And let's not forget all the people who welcomed me with eyes of disgust. Looking back at my time at Henry Wade, I learned that I and so many kids that were there with me could have had a different upbringing if Henry Wade wasn't the first and only option. Many kids at Henry Wade were locked up because they fled from danger, because they were protecting themselves or someone, because they were just being a kid. I can't have my childhood back, but future kids can.
It's important that you hear these words from persons who experience this harm, because there are individuals in our county who are saying that nothing is happening of harm in behind these walls. We'll now hear another impact statement, our final one for this time, from Shay Smith.
How you doing? My name is Shavondra Smith. I was here starting at my 13th birthday all the way up until my 17th birthday. So I stand here because of the injustice that's been going on a decade later. It is 20 years later, and every picture that you've seen that those employees took, it was true. Every statement that you just heard from the other 2 people, it is true. We are emotionally traumatized, and I'm 36 years old now. To see where the young man said he tried to commit suicide, we all did. I can remember a time, I think when we were 15, and a group of about 5 of us, like they said, the 2-minute showers, or you were restrained, to put on wrap. This is how skinny the mats are. All of the mats and blankets, majority of them had holes in them. Everything about it, you know. We were told we weren't going to be anything, and so now that's why I have made it my justice and my duty to be a voice for the mothers, be a voice for the children that are in here. We are here for you. Everyone that is standing out here right now, we are here for you, for justice. We will be heard. Right. 20 years later, we have to have justice. That is unacceptable. Right. These are children. We were children. Yeah. Like, I'm still traumatized. And the people that are here that know me can tell you that this place right here, will, if it doesn't kill you, it will kill you for the rest of your life. You'll still be traumatized. Seeing those pictures brought back memories I never wanted to see. I'm okay with being in 4 cells because that's what I was used to at that age. We weren't given the opportunity to get the counseling that we needed, the help that we actually needed, all of the programs that are out here now. So to the officials, we need justice. We want to know, what are you guys going to do? What are you going to do to protect our babies? Because they're my babies now, because I'm 36. And I went through it, and I'm a voice for them. I became a peer advisor through Lone Star Justice Alliance to make sure that I continue this fight. And I just wanted to say to the staff members that did actually care, I thank you. To the ones that didn't tell us we weren't going to be something, that said this is just a phase in your life, I thank you. But to the ones that told us we wouldn't be anything, I am somebody. I am an owner. I do run my own nonprofit. I did not die at 18 years old. I'm 36 with 5 children, and I'm here. And we're not going anywhere. We'll stay coming down here until we get justice for these kids. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you so very much. As you see, the question before us is not whether or not there's harm taking place behind these walls. It's been happening for a long time. Right. We're here because it appears to be intensifying in this season. And there are those in seats of power who continue to deny it. We have several leaders within our community who are going to come and offer statements now. The first will be the Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes III, the Senior Minister of the Friendship West Baptist Church, and also a founding member of the Dallas Black Clergy for Safety, Equity, and Justice.
Thank you. Let me first of all say thank you to the courageous, impacted persons who have shared their traumatic testimonies. Let me also say thank you to Reverend Ulysses and Dr. Michael Waters for their leadership, and to the community leadership that has shown up to basically say, seriously, Dallas County, seriously, Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center, seriously? Have you declared war on our children and we don't know about it? Because the inhumane, evil conditions that we are hearing about and that has been reported on is reminiscent not of a juvenile justice center, but of a POW camp. That's right. It sounds like they are prisoners of war who were being tortured and traumatized. Seriously, Dallas County, you've decided that our children's lives don't matter? Seriously, Dallas County, you've decided that the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center is a place where we create a climate where suicide dominates the minds of children. Seriously, Dallas County? This is what you've decided to do to children who you have evidently labeled problematic instead of the conditions from which they come being problematic, instead of the conditions under which you put them. That's what's problematic. Seriously, Dallas County? And then you have the unmitigated gall to name this a juvenile justice center. If I had time, I'd educate you on justice. Justice is restorative, not traumatic. Justice has to do with rebuilding lives that have been victimized by injustice. Maybe you need an education on what justice is. And y'all had the nerve a few years ago to invite me to serve as your Martin Luther King Jr. celebration speaker. What a joke. So while you are celebrating King, the drum major for justice, you are practicing injustice on kids. I got a word for you. Kids' lives always matter. I got one last word for you. I represent a sable-skinned savior from the streets who knew something about being traumatized by an injustice system. And he promised that in the judgment, he would judge nations by how they treat the least of these. I'm going to remix what he's going to say to Dallas County Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center. I was in the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center, and you traumatized me. You traumatized me. So Dallas County, there's some time in hell waiting on you until you give restorative justice to all of these impacted young people as well as those who are there right now. So yeah, we calling for a meeting with the juvenile, but we want a meeting with you. Because we want to know the whole truth and nothing but the truth, because now y'all on trial.
Yes, sir. All right.
Dr. Haynes, I have another joke for you. Several years ago, I was invited by the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center to facilitate trauma-informed care among the volunteers and staff. In fact, it was trauma-informed ministry that I was invited to facilitate several sessions. And so I am Reverend Dr. Irie Session, co-pastor of the Gathering of Womanish Church right here in Dallas. And I accepted that invitation. I had no idea of the situation that these young people were going through. I was also invited by the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center to facilitate classes with the youth, boys and girls. I was able to touch and impact hundreds of young people, and none of them gave a clue as to what was going on. But let me tell you what that tells me. What that tells me is that they have been groomed really well. They have been groomed to keep quiet. They have been groomed to keep silent. And you know what? It reminds me of a story in the Bible. There is a story of a young child whose nurse was carrying him because there was danger approaching. As she was carrying him, she dropped him, and as a result of dropping him, he became crippled in both legs. Dallas County, you have dropped our children. You are dropping our children. Every single time they are unable to come outside and feel the sun on their skin, you have dropped them. Every time they only get one call to their family, you have dropped them. Every time they are not allowed to have sanitary conditions, you have dropped them. Dallas County, we're holding you accountable for dropping our children. Rather than protect our children, rather than to see that their lives matter, you have dropped them. And so we are here standing together as a community to say that is unacceptable. We want to meet with you because we want to be sure that our children stop being dropped and begin being cared for with dignity and humanity. We will not settle for anything less. Stop dropping our children.
Thank you very much. And thank you all my
compañeras and comrades out here today in this heat. I'm John Fullenweiner, the co-founder of Mothers Against Police Brutality, and you'll forgive me if I look at my notes occasionally. A lot of times an older person will have a good thing to say. Well, without their notes, they might stammer a bit. The issues that we've heard from these young people and from the pastors, these are not new issues. They are part of the way that this county and this country have treated incarcerated youth for decades, for a century probably. These youth, the kids that are imprisoned in there today, 90% of them are African American or Latino. We call them justice involved youth, as when we say services for justice involved youth. But the truth is they're involved in something quite different. When they're locked in their cells, hour after hour, day after day, and maybe get out once a week into the fresh air, this is not justice involved. It's the opposite. Commissioner Price, back in 2018, demanded that this very confined to your cell practice end. And his demands did lead to a change in leadership down here when Dr. Smith left. But here we are 6 years later with credible reports of the exact same treatment. No change in conditions. And that's not the only problem. I want to go into one problem in sort of detail to stand for the many others. And this has to do with detention while you wait for adjudication. Young people are detained longer in this facility than in any other county in the state. This facility does not conform to national standards on pretrial detention of youth, standards which are set by groups like the Conference of Administrators and the American Bar Association. Those standards go like this. Within 30 days, 75% of youth in detention should have their case adjudicated. 75%. You know what the figure in this dark satanic mill is? 1%. 1%. After 3 months, 90 days, the standards expect 98% of pretrial detained youth to have their case adjudicated. You know what the figure is in here? 21%. And when most people, youth get adjudicated, they end up at home under some kind of supervision. Be at home are stuck here in the conditions we've talked about. The young people confined here, the mismanagement of this center has involved them and us, the unwary public, in a grave injustice. Now, to change a system, to change an unjust system, we need a sustained effort.
That's right.
We need a big tent movement.
That's right.
And if we can build such a movement,
Yes, sir.
and if we have the necessary staying power,
Yeah.
then we will change this system. And we'll save the futures and the lives of perhaps thousands of young people. Now may it be so through our labor.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you for your courage, for your heart, and may what breaks your heart and the heart of God break our hearts. I pray for restoration and ways out of the way for you.
Zola Law, the senior minister at Northway Christian Church in North Dallas, and typically you don't get to see pastors this beautiful in North Dallas who've been kissed by the sun that long. Mother. And the conditions are unacceptable. 15 violations, unacceptable. When my 4-year-old does something that's unacceptable, there are consequences. But the consequences aren't a death penalty. Because not letting kids go outside to get vitamin D, that's inhumane. That is unacceptable. To not be able to shower daily. Now, my 4-year-old would rather not shower daily, but there are demands on him in my house. And so to not allow them to have water to refresh their bodies, that's a death penalty. This ought to be a place of a sanctuary. Earlier today, the kids came running to me during the children's moment in our sanctuary. This ought to be a sanctuary, a place of restoration. Justice is what Cornel West says is what love looks like in public. This is not love. This is death, and death dealing. Y'all ought to know right by now that is unacceptable. And so we come as priests and as prophets about this problem. We come to protest because the system must change. All kids' lives matter. The system must change because all kids' lives matter. The system must change because all kids' lives matter. And Jesus, the one who I preach and teach, brought all the kids to himself. And he said, move out the way. I'm imagining there were some kids that were on a roll and some kids who were in detention centers. And he said, unless you see about these kids, don't step to me.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm George Mason, president of Faith Commons, Baptist minister, and you've heard that all kids matter. Well, I want to say they are all our kids whose lives matter. It doesn't matter whether they are mostly black kids or Latino kids. They are all our kids. And we are here to declare that we belong to them and they belong to us. Sadly, too many of the kids who are confined here within this building are here because they broke the law. That is, they violated community standards that we think are important. Well, those same community standards apply equally to adults. Those who are appointed or who are elected or who are employed to care for these kids, when they break their constitutional duty to trust, to take care of them, then we have to hold them accountable too. No youth behind these walls came out of the womb destined to commit a crime that would merit their incarceration. They have, all of them, experienced some kind of moral injury, whether from their family, their neighbors, society, that has robbed them of trust in authority and undermined their respect for the humanity of others. How can they be restored? How can they be rehabilitated if those responsible for correction fail them again and again? We are here to raise our voices of outrage over the excuses that are made for dereliction of duty against these kids in our community. Excuses are the very thing we say we will not tolerate from kids who are breaking the law. But we tolerate them too often for those adults who are failing them equally in their duty. The young people who are living in Henry Wade right now will be with us in our society one way or another for decades to come. What will become of them? How will they function when they get out? Will they honor their humanity and ours because they have seen the best in us when they were at their worst? Or will they return to patterns of violence and lawlessness because they saw no difference in us? It's time to change the system. It's time to protect our kids. We are not asking for Henry Wade to be turned over to the Ritz-Carlton hotels. We are simply demanding the neglect and squalor and callousness that the current conditions reflect. We want to set the kind of example for these young people that makes it clear that moral standards lead to a good life, and they apply equally to everyone.
That's it. Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone. My name is Minister Dominique Alexander, president and founder of The Next Word. Let me start off by saying I want to thank Lady Waters and Pastor Waters for organizing and continuing to facilitate conversations in this coalition of justice, and to all my brothers and sisters and impacted individuals who have came out here today to bring their voices loud and clear. As a person who is formerly incarcerated in Dallas County, I know too well what it is like to be incarcerated inside of a solitary confinement facility. If many people did not remember, in 2016, as we organized a protest on July 7th, while I was yet incarcerated, I sat inside of a single for more than 4 days. I know that I did to me. And yet at the end of the day, I could not only imagine a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old having to go through that. Now, at the end of the day, the movement equips me and prepares me for thing to come. But our children, it's imperative that we stand up in for them. I want to start off by the words of Michelle Alexander in the book New Jim Crow. She says, today's lynching is a felony charge. Today's lynching is incarceration. Today's lynch is a mob or professionals. They have a badge. They have law degrees. They have felony and modern ways of saying, I'm going to hang you and burn you. Once you get that F, you are on. I come here today because it seems as if the people who come to us every time, every 4 years, and asking for our vote has forgotten the reason why so many of our ancestors fought for their right to sit in the institution that they hold right now. And some of them have forgotten. Some of them look just like me. And I call a spade because at the end of the day, Dallas County holds most black elected officials than any county in the state of Texas. And yet at the end of the day, it seems as if Henry Wade himself is still running this county. Have individuals who have become more institutionalized and yet uphold the system and have forgotten their mission of why Fannie Lou Hamer years ago, more than 50 years ago, stood on the House Democratic National Convention's floor and spoke that speech so that officials could one day say that they are the Democratic candidate for Dallas County. And yet some of these individuals have forgotten that sacrifice. They've forgotten that sacrifice of Fannie Lou Hamer when her house was bombed. Go home and to even register to vote. Some of these people have forgotten their way. And some of them going to ask us for our vote in 2026. And one of the things my pastor said, you are on trial, I will say we have receipts. And we're going to remind these individuals that look like us, that's on the juvenile board, that have failed to be held accountable towards the uncruel conditions of this Dallas County jail. I want to start off by saying thank you to our district attorney. It is a crying shame when a district attorney is the one that's saying the injustice live here, because normally in 50 years ago that would be the other way around. Yet I want to say thank you to John Cruzo for his leadership. I want to say thank you to Commissioner Summerman for his leadership. I want to say thank you to Judge Clay Jenkins for his leadership. I want to say thank you to Dr. Elba Garcia for his leadership. I want to say thank you to Dr. Teresa Daniels for her leadership. I left someone out for a reason. And yet at the end of the day, that's me saying that, not the individuals behind. Because yet at the end of the day, it is not to sit here and be comfortable when children are sitting behind us uncomfortable. And yet at the end of the day, when I see my tax-paying dollars being wasted, and I look at an audit report that says $800,000 were spent for a program that only had 2 kids, and yet these people that sit on this juvenile board is not flipping the table over, it lets me know that something is going on. So the next generation work will continue to bring our voice to make sure that justice is served. And to all of the babies and the families, we are with you. I want to end by saying, I remember when a woman was here in pretrial release and her son had got arrested. And the woman was sitting in this building behind me, and she looked at me, she said, Minister Alexander, I called them for months and years to support me with my son. And now that he has gotten arrested, I don't even have rights to my son. I want people to know that this facility behind us is a pretrial release. a preacher place that is hold until they see a jury of their own peers. And yet at the end of the day, it seems as if, like my pastor said, that this is a prisoner of war camp. Thank you.
We come with one demand, and then we will entertain questions from the media. The demand is simple. We demand to meet with each member of the Dallas County Juvenile. If you're not, we'd rather you do it to our face. To be a part of the solution, we want to know how we can collaborate with you to Dallas County.
Yes, sir.
We'll now open up for questions from the media. At this present moment, our demand is clear. It's to meet with the members of the Dallas County Juvenile Board to hear directly from them what are the conditions inside this house. We've heard from these impacted individuals that there are horrors there. And if they join in unison with their chorus and let us know what's really happening there, then maybe we can collaborate and build. However, if they deny what we know is happening, we have our marching orders, and we certainly will collaborate together to remove them from office.
Just to reiterate, what kind of timeline are you all asking for in terms of change in the meeting? What are your immediate plans if that's not accommodated?
Sure. The demands are immediate. We hope to receive a response from those members as soon as they are available. We understand that some may be on recess, but certainly as soon as they are back in the county, we anticipate and will receive response. And anyone who's ready to meet with us, we're ready to meet with them now. Each day that passes is another day of a young person suffering. Each day passes is another day where the cloud of possibility, impossibility grows larger in the minds of these children. And so the time is now. Dr. King said the time is always ripe to do what is right. We stand in that legacy, and we are hoping to have immediate change and to meet them as soon as possible.
Pastor Haynes, I have a question for you. One of the things that DA Rizzo told us is that not giving these children rehabilitation basically just they continue to graduate from one petty crime
Right.
to more violent crimes, and then before you know it, there's several examples of then kids committing really violent crimes like robbery and capital murder. What is your message to the people that are leading this juvenile board about rehabilitation and helping these kids get a second chance?
Yeah, thank you for that. If it is true that hurt people, then it is also true that those who are criminally mistreated or treated as criminals have a greater chance of being in that which is criminal. Now we have, of course, some amazing examples here of someone who basically said, y'all hurt me, but I'm going to turn my pain into service. Yeah. And so she's done that. And the beautiful thing is we have a history of doing that as a people. But the sad reality is that in too many instances, this nation is guilty of breeding criminality because of the criminal conditions that so many people come from. And so, unfortunately, we have persons evidently on the juvenile board who are clueless about what justice looks like. And so we're simply saying justice is restorative. Justice is not criminalizing or traumatizing. Justice ain't creating what? An existential hell. That's what's going on right here, an existential hell. And hell can produce hellions. That's my message to them.
We know that the next meeting of the Juvenile Board will happen in mid-August. We've already investigated that. We're hoping to meet in this month, next month, the month of July. And depending upon those meetings, whether they happen and whether they productive will then in turn determine what we do as a collective in the month of August.
Right.
Any further questions? Yes.
The fact that even kids are held longer here than any other facility in the state. Just to reiterate, what are the implications of that?
Of holding longer? Well, so I won't get into all the legalese, but this is what I understand from those who are legal activists and are working here, is that when you investigate the numbers, white young people who are in this facility are released at a far quicker rate than our black and brown youth, all right? And so we know that there is inequity in terms of how they are processed through the system. The longer that they remain in Henry Wade, and let's kind of drill this down to humanity. The longer I am in solitary confinement is the longer I'm away from my family.
Come on, man.
The longer I'm away from my community. Prisoners of war have often been put in solitary confinement as a means of breaking them. These young people are not prisoners of war. They are our children. But this system, for whatever reason, has designed itself to break their hearts, to crush their spirits before they have an opportunity to begin life. This is a house of horrors, and it is horrible for elected officials to look children, their families, and their attorneys in the eye and to suggest that what is happening to them is not taking place. Thank you. We're going to end with the benediction. We are a place where we believe that we should create sacred space wherever we are in. And so for just a moment, we'll gather together and then we'll depart.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for every single person who has shared, especially the voices of those who are justice impacted. And I want to start off. This week I was given a charge by Dr. Frederick Haynes. And that charge was, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? You've heard too much here today. And the simple question is, what you gonna do? For one to truly know a nation, they have to first go inside of its jails and prisons.
Come on now.
So if what we're learning, what is happening inside of Henry Wade, my question here for Dallas County is, who are we as a people?
Yeah, that's it.
Because the moment you begin to take one's humanity away, I want you to know that you and yourself are taking your humanity away. It goes both ways. My name is Lauren Whitney. I am a mother to a black boy. And today on my way here, my son asked me, Mommy, where are you going? I said, son, you know how every night we pray that God use our hands and our feet and our voice for justice? Well, baby, I'm going to go do just that. He sat with that. And later he came back to me and he said, Mom, you know what I would say to them? He said, I would tell them to treat people how you want to be treated. He's 7. And so I say to you, these are our children. So treat people how you want to be treated. Their bodies full of potential and tomorrow, so treat people how you want to be treated. These are lives worth living, so treat people how you want to be treated. Full of visions and destiny, how you behind are gifts and there are talents. Treat people how you want to be treated. Hope, growing minds. These are our children. There are dreams. These individuals behind this wall are God's dreams.
Say that.
Treat people how you want to be treated.
Thank you so much. I want to thank you all for coming and for this coalition standing in the midst of this heat. Many of you, members of clergy, have had multiple services today, but thank you for standing along with us, the activists, to persons of goodwill. We thank you for bearing this heat. I do believe that it's not hotter out here than it is in there in terms of the experiences of our young people. So thank you so much. For members of media that would like to speak with us directly, we can meet over here.